Not every hollow point earns its reputation the same way. Engineering data separates the brands that merely expand from the ones that expand consistently every time under real barrier conditions. One manufacturer on this list built its reputation through a bonding process that operates at the atomic level, a detail almost never discussed outside laboratory reports. We are counting down the top 5 ammunition brands of 2026, based on documented terminal ballistics, manufacturing precision, and verified engineering data. Let's get into it. Number 5. PMC and CCI. These two manufacturers matter because they prove that consistency, not headline ballistics, wins the volume shooting market. PMC is produced by Pungsan Corporation, a company that runs a fully vertically integrated supply chain. Every brass casing, primer, and powder formulation is manufactured in-house, eliminating the component variance that plagues brands relying on outside vendors. CCI, meanwhile, built its name, solving a problem most shooters never think about: rimfire ignition reliability in .22 long rifle ammunition. Here is what most people miss about this pairing. PMC runs automated charge checking stations that reject any cartridge deviating by more than 0.2 of a grain of powder. That kind of tolerance control is why PMC bronze and X-Tac loads produce tight velocity spreads round after round, not just on paper, but across entire production runs. This obsession with consistency is what separates a training round that simply cycles from one that actually teaches a shooter's hands the same recoil impulse every time. On the technical side, PMC bronze 9mm 124 grain runs at 1150 feet per second, feeding through clean brass with medium smooth extraction. CCI blazer brass matches it at 1088 feet per second, using reloadable brass and boxer primers. Compare that to Cellier and Bellot, which pushes the same bullet weight to 1181 feet per second for a noticeably snappier impulse. The operating philosophy across all three stays the same: reliable ignition, predictable brass, and repeatable point of impact. The trade-off here is specialization. Neither PMC nor CCI leads in premium self-defense engineering the way the brands ahead of them do. That weakness matters less than it sounds, because their entire design purpose was never defensive terminal performance. Range ammunition exists to build repetition and reliability at high volume, and few brands do that with more precision. Next on this list, a manufacturer whose bullet geometry solves a problem most hunters do not even realize their ammunition has. Number 4. Winchester. Few names carry the manufacturing history this one does, and few brands span 3 distinct engineering categories as cleanly. Winchester Ammunition operates under the Olin Corporation out of East Alton, Illinois, and its catalog reflects one of the longest continuous production histories in American shooting sports. Millions of shooters fire Winchester's USA White Box line every year without ever touching the company's more specialized defensive and hunting engineering. Here is the engineering decision that changed everything for Winchester's hunting line. Deer Season XP uses an oversized polymer tip that covers a significant percentage of the bullet's frontal area. Standard polymer tips exist mainly to improve aerodynamics. Winchester's tip does that, but it also collapses inward on impact, driving early-stage expansion and rapid energy transfer into vital tissue. That dual-purpose design is why this round became a dedicated medium-game option, rather than a repurposed target bullet. Technically, the Deer Season XP loading in common rifle calibers pairs an oversized extreme point tip with a jacketed lead core built for rapid expansion at hunting velocities. On the defensive side, the Ranger T-Series 45 ACP 230 grain load leaves the muzzle at 920 feet per second and reaches 14.2 inches of penetration in gelatin testing, with an expanded diameter of 1 full inch. Compare that expansion to the Federal HST 9mm 124 grain load, which reaches 0.610 inches. Winchester's reverse taper jacket unfolds into 6 distinct radial petals with sharp talons, a mechanical approach built specifically around maximum diameter rather than penetration depth. The trade-off is specialization within each product line, rather than one unified engineering philosophy across the catalog. Winchester's hunting bullets and duty bullets solve very different problems using very different mechanisms, which means the brand rarely leads any single category outright. That distinction matters less when you consider Winchester's original design purpose, delivering dependable, purpose-built ammunition across an enormous range of hunting and defensive applications for over a century. Up next, a brand whose bonding process fuses metal at the molecular level, long before the bullet ever reaches its target. Number 3. Speer. This brand earned its reputation through one manufacturing process that fundamentally changed how bonded bullets are built. Speer ammunition operates out of Lewiston, Idaho, and its Gold Dot line became the standard duty round for law enforcement agencies across the country. That reputation was not built on marketing. It was built on solving a mechanical failure point that plagued earlier bonded bullet designs. Traditional jacketed bullets are made by swagging a lead core into a cold-drawn copper cup, a mechanical process that leaves a seam where the jacket and core can separate under extreme impact forces. Speer replaced that entire method with something called the uni-core process. Here is the engineering decision that changed everything. Uni-core electrochemically deposits pure copper onto an alloyed lead core, one atom at a time, fusing the two materials permanently rather than mechanically pressing them together. This means jacket thickness stays precisely controlled across every square millimeter of the bullet's surface. When that bullet strikes a hardened barrier, like auto glass or a steel door, the jacket cannot peel away from the core because there is no seam left to separate. On specifications, Gold Dot 9mm 124 grain plus P ammunition leaves the muzzle at 1180 feet per second and penetrates 16.6 inches into ballistic gelatin, expanding to 0.542 inches while retaining nearly all of its original weight. Compare that to Hornady Critical Duty 135 grain plus P, which reaches 16.2 inches at a lower muzzle velocity of 10 feet per second. Both rounds use a bonding strategy, but Speer's atomic-level fusion process is what allows Gold Dot to maintain complete structural mass even after barrier penetration. The trade-off is cost. Unicore is a more expensive manufacturing process than traditional swagging, which keeps Gold Dot priced above basic training ammunition. That cost matters far less in a duty or defensive context, where bullet integrity after barrier penetration can be the deciding factor in terminal performance. Speer built Gold Dot specifically to survive that worst-case scenario, a defensive round trusted for its consistency under exactly the conditions where cheaper ammunition tends to fail. Next, a manufacturer that solved barrier clogging using something as simple as a rubber wedge inside the bullet itself. Number 2. Hornady manufacturing. Few companies have influenced bullet physics as directly as this one, and Hornady earned its position through a genuinely simple mechanical fix to a problem that plagued hollow-point ammunition for decades. Hornady is based in Grand Island, Nebraska, and its engineering philosophy centers on solving barrier performance and aerodynamic drag through projectile geometry rather than raw power. Traditional hollow-point bullets often clog when passing through barriers, such as heavy denim, drywall, or sheet metal, effectively turning a hollow point into a solid projectile that overpenetrates without expanding. Hornady's critical duty and critical defense lines solve this using the patented FlexLock and FTX designs. Here is what most people miss about this mechanism. Hornady embeds a soft elastomer tip inside the hollow point cavity itself. When the bullet strikes an intervening barrier, that elastomer prevents debris from packing into the cavity. Once the bullet reaches hydraulic tissue, fluid pressure forces the elastomer inward, acting as a wedge that mechanically drives the jacket outward into a reliable, uniform expansion pattern regardless of what the bullet passed through first. On specifications, critical duty 9mm 135 grain plus P travels at 1110 feet per second and reaches 16.2 inches of penetration, expanding to 0.520 inches, while retaining 98% of its weight. Compare that to Federal HST 124 grain, which reaches 18.67 inches at a similar velocity, showing how bullet weight and cavity geometry shift penetration depth even within the same caliber. In long-range rifle ammunition, Hornady's heat shield polymer tip addresses a separate problem entirely: aerodynamic heating that softens standard plastic tips and degrades ballistic coefficient during supersonic flight. Hornady's heat-resistant polymer holds its shape throughout the bullet's flight path, preserving accuracy at extended distances. The trade-off is that Hornady's innovations are highly specialized to specific failure points: barrier clogging in handgun ammunition and thermal drag in rifle ammunition. This means the brand's true strength shows only in these very targeted engineering challenges, rather than broad catalog dominance. That specialization matters far less once you consider what these mechanisms were built to solve: decades-old problems in bullet physics that most competitors still have not fully addressed. You have waited long enough. Here it is. Number 1. Federal Premium Ammunition. This brand did not earn the top position through any single innovation. It earned it through complete catalog dominance across every category this industry measures: personal defense, precision rifle, big game hunting, and high-volume training. Federal Premium is headquartered in Anoka, Minnesota, and its engineering teams have spent decades refining bullet designs that solve distinct problems in each of these disciplines rather than applying one design philosophy across the board. The HST jacketed hollow point stands as Federal's flagship defensive round, and law enforcement agencies across the country treat it as a benchmark. Older hollow point designs suffered from cavity clogging when passing through heavy winter clothing, a failure that turned expanding ammunition into a non-expanding threat. HST's pre-skived jacket petals and central cavity geometry resist that clogging entirely, allowing the bullet to expand into a uniform starburst pattern on nearly every impact. Here is the engineering decision that changed everything for Federal's long-range hunting line. Terminal Ascent combines a solid copper shank with an electrochemically bonded lead core, then adds the patented slipstream polymer tip. Standard polymer tips deform under the heat generated by supersonic air friction, degrading aerodynamic efficiency mid-flight. Slipstream's hollow core design solves this differently, forcing bullet expansion even at low impact velocities down to 1,600 feet per second at distances beyond 1,000 yards, something most hunting bullets cannot achieve at that range. On specifications, HST 9mm 124 grain reaches 18.67 inches of penetration at 1150 feet per second, expanding to 0.610 inches, while retaining nearly 100% of its weight. Compare that to Speer Gold Dot 124 grain plus P, which penetrates 16.6 inches, and Hornady Critical Duty 135 grain plus P, which reaches 16.2 inches. Federal's HST achieves deeper penetration while matching or exceeding the expansion diameter of both competitors, a combination few single bullets manage simultaneously. The trade-off is that Federal's broad catalog approach means no single Federal product pushes one narrow specialty as far as a dedicated competitor might. Speer's Uni-Core bonding and Hornady's heat shield tip each solve one specific engineering problem more narrowly than Federal's more generalized designs. That trade-off matters little once the full picture comes into focus. Federal Premium ranks first, not because of one standout bullet, but because its HST, Terminal Ascent, and American Eagle lines each meet or exceed the benchmark standard within their own category, something no other manufacturer on this list accomplishes across the board. The 5 brands ranked here prove that ammunition performance in 2026 comes down to documented engineering solutions, not brand recognition or marketing claims. Federal, Hornady, Speer, Winchester, and PMC or CCI each solved a specific mechanical problem, and that problem-solving is what separates a top-tier round from an average one. Which of these 5 has performed best in your own range testing? Drop your results in the comments below. This video covers ammunition for legal sporting, competitive, and defensive use within established legal frameworks. No content here suggests illegal modification or unlawful acquisition of any firearm or ammunition. Subscribe if you want documentary-style breakdowns built on verified engineering data, manufacturing history, and terminal ballistics research, not marketing copy dressed up as reviews.